So the kids were at home wondering where I was at work wondering where they were, because I couldn't communicate with them. They couldn't communicate with me. Some were texting, some didn't have my number, even though it's supposed to. And welcome back to the Angry Teacher channel. I'm Richard Williams, the Angry Teacher, and today I am just so grateful that there's some new folks watching this video. If you are one of the new folks watching this video, thanks. I need you to hang around. You know what? Peruse all the playlists and see which ones kind of speak to you. Watch the videos and hit up the subscribe and the like so that you could be updated on the next Angry Teacher videos. I would love you to remain a part of our Angry Teacher community. Those of you who've been here before, you know I love y'all. Without you, there'd be no me. Thank you. Thank you for the likes. Thank you for the love. Thank you for the support. Let's get into the video. Now, recently, you know, with the pandemic, we've all had to change some stuff, look at some stuff differently. And it's funny that the pandemic either highlighted some of our challenges as a nation, especially as it pertains to education, or it has exacerbated what's already there. And it's an ongoing thing in our society that we're not necessarily fixing, and that's a problem. But in any case, here's the first. These are the first. There are about 10 of them, but so I'm going to break it up. I don't want to make the video too long, but you know, as I was doing some work today, I kind of had to identify about 5 of them that are just permeating my soul right now, and it's scary. Number 1, class size. Now we've always had too many kids in a class that, you know, as an instructor, it's hard to reach all the kids all the time. Especially the more difficult the subject matter, the content, kids might need more attention. With that said, even if they put like there's a teacher's aide in the class or a student teacher in the class, it's still too many to deal with, because kids have their issues, they have their learning issues, they have their social issues, emotional issues, and then all of that has to be dealt with, as well as getting the kids focused academically. So that's one of the problems. The classes are too large for us to efficiently and effectively reach students. The communication. If a child is having an issue and I'm dealing with student X and their issue, then student A won't get the attention they deserve as well, because there's so many of them. And as one person who potentially has their own issues, as teachers, as human beings, and that's just one period. Now these are based, I'm looking at, because I've taught high school and middle school for so long, but elementary school, at least you see the same students over and over, and it's a lot less because you only have about 30, give or take, but those are still large numbers. But as high school and middle secondary school teachers, we teach like at least 150 to 200 annually, and it's a lot to reach each kid effectively. And that's one of the problems. The instruction, we have to differentiate, and I get that, but even in the differentiation of the instruction, there's still not this deep delving that we can get into. And if we do a deep dive into the content, we won't be able to do a lot of content. So there's still a deficiency for the student to move on to the next level, because once again, there are too many kids with a lot of deficiencies that we have to make up for in the 1 year that we have them. And with all of that going on, there's also a lot of outside factors, like if a student is absent frequently, if there are always assemblies or different emergencies that the building has to deal with, it affects what happens in the classroom. And now with COVID and the pandemic, there are the modalities of the instruction. So there's the dual modality where I'm teaching online. I'm in one location teaching the students online, and there's also a set of students in front of me. Whether you choose to do it one, or whether you're chosen to do the one modality, either just face-to-face or just online, there is still a disconnect because you can't touch their papers, you can barely touch them, or you have to move gingerly around them, if you move around them at all. So there's still a disconnect because the numbers are so large. I've known a teacher, and I have, you know what, I don't even have to use another teacher, I can use myself. At the end of my day, my 7th and 8th periods are extremely large. There are about 44 students on my online modality. I have dual modality for that class, and so for those classes. And so in person I have about 10 students each period, and then online for the same periods I have about another 30 something kids. So there's this disconnect, and I don't know, sometimes I have to focus on who I'm talking to. There's always one that's going to get shafted because you're looking in one direction, teaching that, and even if you're standing at a board, there's some kids who aren't connecting through the either modality, because once again they have to turn everything in electronically, or they're looking at stuff on their computer. So there's this disconnect, there's this triangle that's not happening because they're focusing on the computer, but they're trying to focus on you, they're trying to look at what you're showing them, but they're focusing on the kids at home online, and they're seeing their pictures. It's a lot going on because the numbers are so large. Number 2, technology. I kind of hinted at it for the class size, but it's the same thing with technology here. Students are more technologically savvy, first of all, than the teachers most times. So there are things that and I don't know if there are numbers to support this, and I probably should look that up, but there's probably a little bit more plagiarism because they are more savvy to identify websites and sources that we don't know about, that they can copy and paste from to turn in an assignment. There are a lot of students, and there's nothing wrong with that. A lot of students had to instruct me on some of the devices and how to use some of the websites and how to navigate the technology. So there's a learning gap, and so it takes away from my instructing you on a content because I'm trying to figure out the technology of the situation that we're in right now. Some students still haven't figured it out. So most of us as teachers we're being IT people. So we're telling you, okay, click on the number, especially if the students are at home. Click on the next button there. No, you scroll too far. Scroll up some more. Change this. Do this. And so it's becoming more of, here's how to find what I want you to find, and then try to complete that real quickly. Because right now I can't go. By the time I've finished with that, we've lost time, and so it takes time to get anything else going. The distraction of the technology. When students are at home, or even if they're in front of you, there's this chance that they're not necessarily online. Remember back in the day when teachers used to say, get off your phone or put your phone away? We can't do that anymore because some of them are using the phone for that technological aspect of learning during a pandemic. So I don't know if you're on Instagram. I don't know if you're on Facebook. I don't know if you're on TikTok. So you're probably there. I don't have your 100% attention. And we're not even going to talk about those who are still at home. They're probably literally on TikTok or Netflix or doing something that they're not supposed to be doing. Or there's this disconnect. There's this lag in responses. There's this lag in hearing what's going on. So once again, it takes time. And there's a lot being lost in the instruction. The dependency on this technology is also a problem. And this was prior to COVID anyway. If you've ever asked a student to look a word up on dictionary.com or any of those websites, they would give you the first definition, whether it makes sense or not. There's no thinking through anything anymore because technology does it for you. I have my students turn in their assignments typed. They don't know how to send an email. Even though we're in 2021, as a matter of fact, they don't know how to navigate technology, even though it's been at their hand on their plate for so long. And so there's this dependency that, it's going to figure it out. We have all these websites that proofread for them. Microsoft Word has all these little squiggly lines that tells them what to do, and they still don't know how to navigate that. So there's a dependency on it's going to figure itself out, or just because I turned it in, it's a thing. If it were in person, if it were face to face, if it were on paper, I could walk around and say, fix that for me, straighten that out. But now, because we can't get too close to them, because we can't really navigate the class, we have to navigate the classroom differently. They are getting dependent on the fact that as long as you hit submit, it's a thing. There's no thought behind anything anymore. And so that's hurting where we are as, educators. And the flip of all of this is the lack of technology. There's still some homes and still some communities that don't have access to proper technology. They don't have access to the proper Wi-Fi, and that's crippling what you need to do as an in-class instructor. When you have students at home who may or may not have the technology needed, and you have some in person who may or may not have the technology needed, or there's some people who in the same period have working Wi-Fi. Some, their Wi-Fi, the bandwidth is not strong enough, so they're in and out of the class, so you're constantly repeating yourself. Or there's some who, there's nothing wrong. They have the newest laptop, the newest technology, the newest this, or the latest rather, Wi-Fi upgrade. And then there's some who don't even have what that is, so they have to come in person. So they're writing stuff, so it takes longer for them, while the others just clickety-clackety typing away. So that's another problem that we're facing as public school teachers today. Number 3, bullying. Bullying has always been a problem. It's always been there. No matter how long you've been in education, that's been a problem. And so there's this underlying physical bullying, because there was a fight one day after school. Only God knows where that came from. But there's that going on, and then there's cyberbullying now that you have to be aware of. There's if a student is online or not, if you put something in the chat, and that's why you have to have your class managers established. Check the video. Or you have to mandate, all these different rules, and kids break it anyway. If they don't like something that's being said, if they don't like something that's being typed, then they chime in and have their 2 cents. If something's going on in the community, it might affect how students are responding in the room, and literally their own rooms. So it's bullying is still there, and it's still a problem that we have to deal with. Laws are still kind of iffy and fuzzy on how the person is being the person who is a bully, how they're responded to, because they're still kids, and some laws are different per district, per states. So it's still not a big thing because we don't know what to do. Social media has caused this now because kids are on it more, because it was at least 8 hours you can kind of expect for them to not be on their social media accounts because they're in class. Now, because of this pandemic teaching, I don't think any teacher is teaching for the full 90 minutes that you have the kid, or the full 1 hour, or the full day. So there's a break and there's a lapse where you're trying to give them a brain break from all the technology and the staring at a screen. And so now the kids go on their social media accounts, and then they're looking at different things, they're responding to things that people respond to, so the bullying is persistent. And social news, that's a part of, I guess, if you will, our nation's social bullying or emotional bullying. You're watching the news, you're seeing all this violence, you're seeing all these protests, you're seeing all people getting upset with your fellow human being. One community is getting upset with another community. People are ill-treated. People are saying things, and so it hurts. And you're taking that all in, and it's socially breaking you down. It's socially bullying you. It's emotionally bullying you. And so that's one thing that's a challenge to us today as educators. Number 4, one of the biggest problems that we face in education in the US, and these are, I'm going to give you some numbers that are for the US. Only God knows what it's like everywhere else. In 2018, 18% of children lived below the poverty line. That's 13 million children 2 years ago. I don't know what the new numbers are, but that's a lot of children. That's a lot of students that come into our classrooms with a deficit of something. 23, and the poverty line is below 23 million, $23,000 in your family income per year annually. So there's a lot of stuff you don't have as a student, and because of the pandemic and because of what's going on, we expect you to have certain things in order for us to reach you academically, and that's one of the problems. We also know that there's a disproportionate amount of access for Black and brown students. So they don't have a lot, and not, that's such a general, but some obviously are are different. But a lot of Black and brown communities don't have the wherewithal to reach the next level, and that's what we have to deal with in the classroom. The pandemic has exacerbated all of this. So whatever wasn't there before, now it's times 50. The different things that we need for the classroom, our district, and I love the size of our district because we're able to do a lot more than some of the smaller districts in the smaller states and the smaller communities, because my district has a feeding regimen where every Tuesday, Thursday, I believe, our students are fed. If mom or dad have lost their jobs, they can't afford to constantly provide food for you, nutriment, we provide it as a district. So that's a good thing. But some districts don't have this, and that's a problem. And the different states, different sizes, it's just a different communities. There's some communities within my large district that still aren't on the same level because of poverty, and that's hurting what we're trying to do in the classroom. Lastly, the family factors, the broken homes, the divorces, the abuse, the using the student as a babysitter, the poverty we talked about, and the fact that I have to be a caregiver for my grandparents when I need to be in class. That's a factor that's affecting our students and affecting what we're trying to do in the classroom. If I have 30-something kids in front of me and 5 are taking care of their little sibling, their younger siblings, and their grandparents or their grandparents, that becomes a problem because they're not hearing what's going on with the other set of kids in the class. Or if I don't have a lot of space in my house to separate and have class, and my younger siblings are also having class, and especially if they're those younger elementary schools where they're more loud and they're active and they're moving around and whatever, if I'm having my students have independent silent reading, SSRs, or I'm having them read out and share out something, they can't hear what's going on because their younger siblings are louder and having more activity. Or if one of their siblings is in a PE class and they have to do certain things, or in a music class and they have to sing, vocalize something, that becomes a problem because I don't have enough space. I can't go to a separate room because of the poverty or because of my family factors. My family is not where, they can't provide that space. So that's another situation we're dealing with in the classroom. Parental support. Sometimes parents try, but they can't. It's a different world where they may not be skilled in the content that you're going over as a teacher, so they can't necessarily help. And if the student, you try to have tutoring after school, but it's still sitting in front of a computer, so there's still this disconnect. And do you want to sit after 8 hours on sitting in front of a computer to sit in front of it some more to tutor, and then the student is expected to do the same thing and to grasp from that? So that's another thing we're dealing with. The fact that parents may not be academically sound in the content, that's fine, but then they're also not necessarily technologically savvy. So if something happens, they think that you're kicking the kid out of class when it's a Wi-Fi issue. It's your Wi-Fi, mom. I have nothing to do with it. I don't know what's going on at your house. I don't know what your bandwidth is. I don't know if your computer's working. I don't know if you updated it last. If there's something that's happening, if Microsoft Teams, that I have no control over, kind of stops working for a day, and it's happened before. If those things have happened, I have no control over it. So that's something that we have to deal with as instructors. Now, if it's in a face-to-face situation in class, if the power goes out, I've been teaching long enough to know what to do. Okay, guys, here's what we're gonna do. Here's the lesson. We're still doing that. If I can't show you something on the PowerPoint, if I can't show you something on the smart board, if I can't show you something on my computer, I got this. I'm old school. We're gonna pick up one of those books we have in the back. We're gonna figure this out, and we're gonna still learn something. But if you're at home, I can't do anything. A situation happened last week, actually, that we had no power in the building. The AC wasn't working, and I think I made a video for that. And the Wi-Fi wasn't working. All those three. For 2 days, we couldn't do much, if anything. So the kids were at home wondering where I was. I was at work wondering where they were, because I couldn't communicate with them. They couldn't communicate with me. Some were texting. Some didn't have my number, even though it's posted on every PowerPoint. They couldn't get my email. So I'm randomly. It's like it's a hodgepodge of things that we have to deal with as a nation that we haven't done. The social distraction, where because of the pandemic, you're not fully in the room. If you're at home, if you're left at home and your parents trust you to do just school, that's always iffy, depending on the type of student or type of household that you're in. But some parents, I've heard, literally come into, while the kids are in my class, come in and say, "Come on, girl, we gotta go to lunch." Seriously? That's the problem. So we're not getting the parental support there. At least if the child were in the room, I have a captive audience. You have to sit there and listen to me until the bell rings. But now parents are coming in, your kid sister's coming in, your aunt from wherever she's coming to visit. All this is going on, and I still have to teach you. You still have to learn something. So that's a distraction. Some kids are leaving class early to go to work. That would never happen if you were in the building. That's one thing we have to deal with these days as instructors, as educators. So, and students now, because maybe mom or dad have lost their jobs, now their little job that they still have, they have to use that to take care of the family. Another problem, we've been there before, but now it's even more exacerbated by the pandemic. It's a thing, it's worrying, but we'll get through this. We gotta get through this. 2020, 2021 school year, we gotta get through it. We gotta get through it. Go out there and be great, guys. Whatever we do, let's just go out there and teach.